Welcome to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sports.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sport. And of course, we are here to discuss F1. And of course, we have Imola coming up this weekend, the Italian Grand Prix. And it is a sprint weekend. So there's a new format for points scoring by the drivers as well on Saturday. Because as you guys know, the race weekend officially starts on Fridays with the practice runs. Saturday qualifiers, and then Thursday the actual race. But on Saturdays there'll be sprints. So we'll break that down for you quickly. What exactly is this new format? Because of course we know that we have a lot of newcomers following the sport. Again, guys, thanks for coming through. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Help us with the algorithm if you like the channel. You can just watch it for 30 seconds and then like it, share your friends, ask them to like it for you. Right? We appreciate the support. So let's get straight into the action one time. So as I said before, so this weekend is sprint weekend. What does that mean? So I have a bit of the rules here, what it means, what this format is. So I'll just break it down really quickly. I did a little research on it. I was waiting for some of the guys to hop on and they'll explain it better first, of course. So sprint weekend. So I think, as I said before, this happens on Saturdays, I believe, right? So the driver who takes P1, which is the qualifier one, will now receive 8 points rather than the usual three, right? And the scale going down now from down to 1 point for eighth place. So let's be sliding down. So 7, 8, 6, that kind of thing going down the road, right? Your points will apply in both the drivers and the construction categories, okay? Finishing order of F1 sprint will continue to define the grid for Sunday's showpiece event, and the Grand Prix will stick to its original format. So as I said, this sprint aspect will just be for the Saturday qualifying, and Sunday, sorry, will go back to its regular format. So in this particular, right, whoever takes the pole position on Friday will start the sprint in first position, and the driver who wins the sprint starts in P1 on Sunday's Grand Prix. Right, so not too much changing in that form, but of course, the Friday now having a significant role in how it starts on Saturday. Right, so you're breaking on practice now. So there'll only be two practice sessions on sprint weekends, giving the teams left time. So there's less time now for the teams to fine tune and to get themselves in shape for the race and for the sprint on Saturday alone, right? So, and as we know right now, Ferrari is the team to beat. So that's just a breakdown there right now. So let's look at what is happening right now with the standings going into this weekend's championship. So as we know, as I just said, Ferrari team to beat. Ferrari is doing their thing right now. So Leclerc is first right now with 71 points. Second is George Russell with 37. Carlos Sainz third with 33. And Perez fourth with 30. Of course, Lewis Hamilton 28. And I'll just skip a few rounding off that now. We just only talk about the scorers. And in 16th place with 1 point, we have Alexander Albon with Williams. So, of course, our top three drivers again Leclerc, Russell, and Sainz. And Perez gaining on there. He did have a good race last race, came second. And the standings for the constructors so far. Um, so Ferrari, of course, 104 points. Mercedes second, 65. Red Bull, 55. They would have been a bit higher if it wasn't for a few DNFs in a couple of races. So again, as I said, Imola, not again new to this track. No, of course, I'm now following the races intently, and of course, we're here for fantasy, of course. Um, And of course, it's a new format, as you said, the sprint. So our drivers now can get a lot of races in, a lot of points in, sorry, from the races. Now we just look at our teams for the while and see what my plan is moving forward. Right? Because now I have to look back at what played off, how I want to tackle this sprint. We sprint now because now there's more points up for grabs. So that's a lot to consider moving forward. Let's see. Pick up Shakila all the time. So these are my three teams here looking moving forward here to the Grand Prix. So we have team one, team two, and team three. So team one, Ocon, Bottas, Leclerc, Perez, Alonso, and the constructors Ferrari. Now, I don't know. I'm not tempted to change much. I think we have up till Saturday, so we can look at the practice runs, especially now that there's limited practice runs now. There's two practice runs, and those who based on how you finish on the sprint practice, it will be determined how you start Saturday. So I'll be trying to look at Saturday's run, Friday's run first, see how the racers fare, and then I'll try to evaluate my team and make anything. I'm not going to make any changes now, but I am considering maybe keeping this team one. I'm not convinced to change anything. These guys are the most consistent ones in the bunch. Alonso just had a very unfortunate weekend. It wasn't his fault in Australia. It just wasn't his weekend, wasn't his day. It happens to everyone. Look what happened um, to Verstappen, right? One of the top racers. It just wasn't his weekend. So it happens. Team two, Signs. Now, Signs, I turbo drive Signs on team two, which initially was not a bad call at all. He's a great racer, doing well, solid, consistent as well with the finishes. But it again just wasn't his. It really wasn't his race. He started off poorly, very very poor. So it just wasn't his weekend. So -5 in I'm a turbo driver. Will I drop him? I'm not sure yet. I think I'll keep him. I think it was just one of those days. It just wasn't his day. And if you looked at the that last race, almost all the constructors, one driver of all the teams did well, like did not do up to the usual standard, right? I guess it's only really Mercedes benefited. I mean, at least I know they would have liked a podium, both of them, but still they did have the better race out of all the teams because most of the teams either had one driver that DNF or a driver that was out of the top 10. So that's something to look at again. But again, in the F1 fantasy, I think patience is key. Patience is key. This is not like FPL where you give a player 2 3 games and then you say, all right, I'll drop him and bring in the next player. I think because it is so dynamic in the sense that there's so much things that could happen at once. Nothing is straightforward. An accident could happen at any moment in time. Bigger crystal, right? An accident could happen anytime. DNF, anything could happen. Sometimes it don't have even have to be the fault of the driver, right? It could just be a case where they drive. You mind it's like life. You minding your business, driving along the highway, and some drunk driver, someone just comes along, bam, in accident, and bam, you're in a forecast mashup. So it can happen to anyone. So there's no divine way to pick a racer. You just go with who you feel, who you think your gut is on the end on that day, and go with it. And as you can see, most of my teams will be similar. There won't be any significant, like drastic changes. I mean, it's just the constructors just to facilitate maybe a punt. So team two would have been Sainz, Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, and Red Bull as my constructor. So as I already spoke about Sainz, so Norris was just me being patient, right? I had Norris and Ricardo on the same team. I dropped Ricardo, kept Norris. It's just about being patient. And McLaren looked really good in Australia. They had a great race. They were what is it? What 6 and 7? Forgive me if I'm calling the rank wrong, but you're just seeing this orange blob going around the track. They really were up for it. I hope that's a good sign now that they maybe have the mechanics and they have a better control now of the car, understanding of the vehicle now, and they are in sync now, and things will get better, and they could probably add more competition now for Red Bull, for McLaren, I'm sorry, for Ferrari, and of course for Mercedes as well. Those top cars there. Ocon, well, of course, I'm a big fan of Ocon. I love Ocon. I just put him in this one. I originally wanted to just keep him in T1 alone, but I was like, keep him. And he has been very consistent. Can't go wrong when he mid tier drivers. Very, very consistent with the points. Gasly, because of all the other pundits that I have on the panel, and they spoke about Gasly about him, and he has been okay. He had a shaky start, but I think he's having a good understanding of his car now and in control now. Bottas, he can't go wrong. Bottas is very solid, and now that, as I said in the first episode, I think now the mental aspect of that weight of him being under someone like Lewis, now that he is the main driver in his own team now, I think that that will help him. Of course, I don't expect like spectacular things from him right away, but I think as he shows his class, and because he's a great driver, let's be real, he's a great driver. So when he shows his class to the team and the team improves and maybe adds upgrades over time, if he sticks with them for maybe 2, 3 years, you'll never know. He might be challenging up there with the big boys. And of course, Red Bull can't go wrong. At least Perez saved me. Perez podium in a second is what would have saved my whole weekend with Team Two, right? Yeah, Kevin. Um, yeah, Crystal. I mean, it's a very small sport, Crystal. I think if you sit down and I think a lot of people are watching Drive to Survive. I think that is the main catalyst. Just watch season one, and you'll enjoy it, and it brings you to the emotional side of it too, and you get to understand why people do it, why they get into it, how they get into it. And I know F1 is a real funny sport. I am glad I am involved in it in this particular aspect into the fantasy and content creation, and I hope to encourage people to get into it. It is a lot of fun. We'll be trying to do some watch alongs very soon, so stay tuned for that, and I think that will encourage a lot of people to watch. Let's see what Kevin has to say. Big up, Kevin. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So far, Kevin, I think that it's tough. It's very tough to make any decisions, and because this is a sprint weekend now, it's a different format that is even trickier. And it's something close to the date that I think I'll be able to have more intuition, more information as well too. You know? No points. Yeah. Well, you had Red Bull. I'm assuming you had Red Bull. Yeah, you went with Red Bull. Well, I'm now gonna break down team three to explain that dilemma. So team three would have been Leclerc, Turbo Drive Leclerc. I'm glad that we could turbo drive someone like Leclerc because you know that the turbo drive is limited to someone that costs what 20 and below or below 20. So I'm glad that someone as tough as but soon as price may rise and I feel I will affect that very soon. So Leclerc, Norris, Perez, Russell, Sainz, and of course Haas is my constructor. So Haas. Now team three was me using my FPL brain, right? My football fantasy brain, and telling myself, well, all right, the constructor is hit and miss. Pick one that is gonna. It's like a goalkeeper. For me, I think the construct is a goalkeeper, or maybe a little more. Would be like an important wing back, right? So you put someone there that I know is solid, consistent, will get you the points. So far, has been very consistent with the points. They're not the top sought after constructor, but they have been very solid with the points. So I put them there, and it allowed me now to build this star-studded team because this team on paper is mad, right? We have Leclerc, who's the pole driver now in first position. Norris has the name, has the back, and is now finally doing Norris things that we know he could do with the McLaren. Perez with the Red Bull team doing well. He had a great race in Australia. Very good driver. So looking for him to do great things. Russell. What can I say about Russell? Russell has been amazing, quietly doing his thing. His nickname is Mr. Saturday, but he has been amazing on Sundays, doing really well, and he's second right now. Second right now to Leclerc. Right, just trotting along doing his thing. He had a really good race Sunday on Australia. He could have even pushed even more. Could have finished higher. Right, if but it was Red Bull. Mercedes up against Red Bull. The current Mercedes up against the current Red Bull is no contest. And of course, Sainz again. Sainz might be the only person I might move out from this team just to give this particular team a competitive edge because it is my highest scoring team right now at 526 compared to 487 from team one and team two with 357. So I could push this team to try and represent me better in a lot of the international leagues that I'm in. So that is the conundrum right now. That is what we face with right now. Who do we go with? What does Imola have in store for us in terms of what which races, which drivers, because we saw which drivers thrive better in Australia, because Australia we were looking at the drivers that will be able to fight and overtake, because they want those overtake points as well. Perez was brilliant at it, because I think he started what in seventh, if I'm not mistaken, and did really well to come all the way back up at top and push and fight and come second. And he really did give everyone a torrid time. Right. It was really a brilliant race. I want to go back to the circuit. Let's bring up the circuit really quickly. No. Right. So, of course, just remind you guys, we're just trying to preview Imola for this weekend. You all know the format already. For those who don't know, for the newbies that are joining, for the people that are interested, so F1 really starts right on the weekend. So it starts from the Friday, right? So the 22nd is the Friday, so we have practice one. Then you have your no, as I said, because it is a sprint weekend, the format has changed. So normally Friday will just be practice, and then you have your qualifications on you have the qualification on Saturday, and you know how you'll be placing and what, and then race day is Sunday. But because it is a sprint weekend and the sprint will be going towards points, they've changed the format. So practice one will be the Friday. There'll be a qualifying at the end for the sprint. There'll be a practice run again, a small practice, and then the sprint. And the sprint, as I said, the points format changed and everything. And there will be and of course there will be changes to the way that you're placed. So whoever wins the sprint, they get 8 points, and then there will be a breakdown from there. 7-6 of whoever 7-6, 5 points being awarded going down the road. So what can we expect now? Of course, we can't be talking about Imola and not bring up the legend, which is Senna. Of course, he tragically lost his life in this particular race, and we know that the close roots that Lewis Hamilton has to him, and of course to Brazil. Senna is his hero, right? His one of his main drives from driving points for pushing so hard in Formula One. And so we have to of course discuss that. Um, just trying to check out to see what any news, anything serious for us to look out for. So of course, tires again. That's something serious that we could use in terms of adding to the fantasy, right? And oh, that's a great point as well too. Who are some of the home drivers? Like who are the main drivers to look? And of course, Ferrari, so we have that's another good thing to look out for, another thing to add to our analysis as well. But yeah, Imola. So they say Imola is a medium to severity track for the tires, right? So the vendor is used quite frequently. So it means that they might see less track evolution than accustomed to than on other circuits. So it might not be as harsh as some other circuits. So meaning I am assuming that some they may be less pitting, right, required for this particular race, and they may be able to push a little harder than normal, right? I know that I want to run over again one more time the sprint rules, right? So I think the sprint will also be done in Brazil as well, but I think this is the first race for the year that we'll be seeing the sprint, and I want to run over again the how the points are awarded, how it goes. So again, if your driver, again for fantasy, if your driver comes in first position in the sprint, that's 8 points, which is more than the usual amount of points you're gonna get. You're gonna get 3 points. So it's key to look at the practice on Friday. I will maybe we can try and do a short stream on Friday again to show you, or maybe I'll do something on Instagram, put up to your stream on Twitter. Yeah, you can check us on Twitter and Instagram to see who is in pole position, in practice, who is doing well, to give you an indication of who to push because again, the deadline is Saturday, as we all know, right? And I think that this particular format will be very interesting to see for newbies and for newcomers as to how it works, and again for us to try and have an idea of who to push for this particular race and for the sprint and which drivers to bring in. What time is the race? That's a good because of course Australia was 1 a.m. for us in different in, for this part of the world. Let's look at some of the time zones. So for us, let me see if Mexico is 8, then most likely it'll be 9 a.m. for us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll be 9 a.m. for this side of the world. If you're in Los Angeles, it's 6 a.m. Amsterdam's 3. My goodness, London will be 2 p.m. Yeah, that checks out. So, yep, yep. If it's 2, yep, yeah, definitely 9 for us. Definitely 9 for us. If you're in New Delhi, it'll be 6:30. Japan, it'll be 2200 hours. So and it's just amazing to see the different time zones and the different times that people get up to watch these things. Even football, we know with football, some different countries have to get up at some ridiculous times to be around. So yeah, let's look back. So last year at Imola, Verstappen overtook Hamilton at the start of this race. We overtook him in the lead-ins in the standings for this one. Hamilton took second place, and Lando Norris finished third. So again, this might be a really good time here for Norris because Norris did do really, really well in the last race here. Finally catching his form. He did not do start well for the season so far. So that's something good to know there. So again, Verstappen would have finished first, Hamilton second, Norris third. So not too bad at all. Right now, so Ferrari lead the championships, right? This time. However, AlphaTauri and Pierre Gasly were the guys that had the really good performances, right? So we're looking, and those are some names that we should be looking at. Sonoda and Gasly. I think they are poised to push this weekend. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because it's good to look back and have an idea of who does well, who performs better on particular tracks, and I think that will come in very handy in picking your teams going forward. So, what I will do, I think we could definitely, because of the new format, I'll try to maybe do a short live on Friday or so after the practices, or put up some information on Twitter for you guys to have a handle and have an idea of who to go for and who to keep in mind. And of course, you want to try and grab those 8 points, right? But I think for now, if you have if you have Perez, if you have Leclerc, if you have Hamilton, you can't go wrong with those kind of players. Maybe the constructor might be something worth considering. The constructor might be something worth trying to change and tinker with properly. As I said, I might stick with all the constructors I have so far. I don't have any issue. I'm not uh, and again, to patience, patience, patience. I said, look at McLaren, right? This is what the fifth race, 5, yeah. So look at McLaren. McLaren all of a sudden back in the contention, back in the points, and I think they may definitely push one. And I think that can cause some issues for our constructors like Red Bull, for Mercedes, for Ferrari. So I can't wait and I'm anxious to see how this one unfolds. I want to let's look at what some of the top guys are doing. I think that's a good way to always have a gauge on what is happening on on how to pick your players. So let's look at my games and let's look at the global league. Right. So the global league. So the guy that is top right now, right? Max Vem. So let's look at his progress. Let's look at what Max would have done. So let's go all the way back to the first race. Right. Let's look at Bahrain. So he would have had Magnussen, Russell, Leclerc, Schumacher, Sainz, and his constructor was Ferrari. All right. So not too bad. Racked up some really good points there. That race week was 347. Not too bad at all. So let's look at how we let's look at the big changes he would have made now between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia if he was patient and kept that team. So he didn't. He made some changes. So he brought in Magnussen, brought in Verstappen, brought in Leclerc, had Albon, had Gasly, and he went with the constructor Ferrari. Okay, so not too bad there. That race you give me 234 points. Okay, and he turbo drive Leclerc, which was the best move, obviously. Let's see. Now Australia was the recent race. So again, he made some changes. He brought in Bottas. He kept Ferrari. He had Russell, brought in Russell. So Magnussen, Leclerc, Perez. Now looking at this team, this is no big like star-studded mad team, right? Like the look at this team, right? I'm of course Leclerc, right? But Leclerc, Perez, Bottas, Russell, Magnussen, not bad at all. And four of those guys are very solid contenders. They push, they go the limit there, and they have been consistent point scorers. So again, not bad at all. So I think maybe this is a good template to follow, and because you have an expensive constructor in Ferrari doing really well, and then you have some fairly high priced racers, but a good mixture. So Bottas is reasonably cheap, Magnussen is fairly cheap, and he has been very consistent with the Haas because Haas has been doing well. So instead of getting Haas constructor like I did, you could go for the Haas driver. So that's not a bad shout at all. So I will try to do something short, maybe Friday or so. I think come back to you guys because of the change of format and because it will be very important and critical to pick the right players for this particular race. I'll try to do something on Friday for you guys. So we'll sign off there for now. Just wanted to preview the race, preview some of the drivers, just show you all, give you an idea of what the track is about, what sprint is about, the sprint weekend. Hopefully I could have my panel with me on Friday or another time to give you a better in detailed, informed, right, breakdown of the track. But again, thanks for everyone that's coming. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and it's not too late. You know, you could join in. There are different leagues that you'll if you just want to do the fun leagues. There, I can show you quickly is fun breakdown, fun leagues. There are leagues from every for every different there are leagues. So right now I'm in a league here that started from the Saudi Arabia. There's leagues that are start from Bahrain, leagues that start from Australia alone. So you can jump in on those leagues. Just take a test, try it out. It is fun. It is fun, right? So definitely don't be a stranger. Check us out. You can leave a comment if you're interested in watching F1. Don't forget you can check out Drive to Survive. Very informative, very eye-opening documentary, and I think it's one of the best sport documentaries in trying to get new people to watch a sport. And I think F1 is a brilliant sport to start following, right? Imola, and we have a lot of fun races coming up, and I have some announcements coming up as well too. I'm trying to see if I could go to a particular country while there's a race going on, a particular country, a particular driver, right? And if that particular driver podiums and does well, I think it'll be pandemonium. So I'm really hoping that I could go to that particular race and that particular country and check out that race. So guys, again, thanks for coming through. Don't forget like, share, subscribe. The likes really help the channel out in terms of the algorithm and getting this video spread across. So it'll be in your mentions and stuff. And we're really trying to be the mecca and home of fantasy sport. So thanks very much. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Right. Take care, guys.